a prayer for guidance and protection. Psalm 5 is a heartfelt prayer attributed to King David, expressing his deep trust in God's guidance and protection. In this psalm, David seeks God's help in the face of his enemies and desires to walk in righteousness. The psalm is structured as a morning prayer, reflecting David's habit of seeking God early in the day. Thank you for watching God's Word Inspires. Please subscribe to the channel to give me more motivation. I will pray for God's blessings upon you and your loved ones every day. I hope you enjoy this video. Imagine waking up to a quiet morning, the world still hushed before the chaos of the day begins. This is where King David starts in Psalm 5, pouring out his heart in a heartfelt prayer for guidance. Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation, he pleads, his voice raw with longing for God to listen. For David, this isn't just a casual chat. It's a desperate cry for connection, a morning prayer to set the tone for everything to come. He's not distracted by his phone or to-do list. He's laser-focused on God, asking for direction before life sweeps him away. Why does David pray first thing in the morning? Because he knows the power of starting the day anchored in God's presence. Think about your own mornings. Maybe you're rushing to make coffee or scrolling through emails. What if, instead, you carved out 5 minutes to pray, like David did? This simple act can transform your perspective, giving you clarity and peace to face whatever comes. David's prayer for guidance isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting God to guide his steps, one moment at a time. Picture David sitting in the dim light of dawn, maybe on a hillside, his heart heavy with the weight of being king. He's got enemies plotting, decisions looming, and yet he chooses to pray. My voice you shall hear in the morning, O Lord, he says, confident that God is listening. This teaches us something profound. God isn't too busy for you. Whether you're facing a tough day at work, a family struggle, or just feeling lost, your prayers matter. They rise like incense to God, who hears every word. For us today, this opening of Psalm 5 is a call to prioritize prayer. Try this. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, whisper a prayer. Ask God to guide your decisions, calm your worries, and show you the way. Maybe you're praying for strength to handle a difficult boss or wisdom to parent your kids with grace. Whatever it is, know that God is near, ready to listen. David's example reminds us that seeking God's guidance isn't a one-time event. It's a daily rhythm that brings peace of mind and purpose. This section of Psalm 5 also highlights the power of meditation. Not the trendy kind with apps and candles, but a deep, focused dwelling on God's truth. David's meditation is his heart's cry, a blend of words and silence where he lays everything bare. You can do this too. Journal your prayers, speak them aloud, or just sit quietly, trusting God to meet you there. By starting your day with a prayer for guidance, you're not just asking for help. You're declaring that God is your source of strength. In a world that's noisy and chaotic, Psalm 5, 1-3 invites us to slow down and seek God first. It's a reminder that no matter what challenges lie ahead, whether it's a stressful meeting, a health scare, or a broken relationship, God is ready to hear you. His ears are open, his heart is near, and his guidance is sure. So take a deep breath and, like David, let your morning prayer be the foundation for a day filled with hope and trust in God's unfailing love. David shifts gears in Psalm 5, 4-6, painting a vivid picture of God's character. For you are not a God who takes pleasure in wickedness, he declares, reminding us that God's holiness is like a blazing fire, pure, unyielding, and completely opposed to evil. This isn't just theology for David, it's personal. Surrounded by enemies who lie and scheme, he finds comfort knowing that God stands against those who choose darkness. For anyone searching for God's justice or wrestling with unfairness, these verses offer a steady anchor. Let's unpack this. David says evil can't dwell with God. There's no room for it in his presence. Imagine trying to bring mud into a sparkling clean house. It just doesn't fit. That's how sin is with God. He's not okay with deceit, pride, or cruelty, and David lists specifics: the boastful, liars, and those who harm others. These aren't just ancient bad guys. They're the kinds of behaviors we see today. Maybe in a coworker who manipulates to get ahead, or a friend who betrays your trust. David's point: God sees it all, and he's not neutral about it. This can feel heavy, but it's also comforting. When you're wronged, say, someone spreads rumors about you or cheats you out of something you deserve, it's natural to feel helpless. Psalm 5 reminds us that God isn't blind to injustice. He's not sitting back, shrugging at the world's mess. Instead, he's actively opposed to wickedness, and that includes the forces working against you. This truth brings peace of mind, knowing you don't have to fight every battle alone. Now let's be real. These verses might make us squirm. If God hates sin, what about our own mistakes? Here's where grace comes in. David isn't saying God rejects people who mess up. He's talking about those who embrace wickedness without remorse. God's hatred of sin doesn't mean he stops loving us. It means he loves us too much to let us stay stuck in it. Think of a parent who hates seeing their child make destructive choices but still longs to help them. That's God's heart for us. Practically, these verses challenge us to examine our own lives. Are we harboring habits that don't align with God's holiness, like bitterness, dishonesty, or pride? Maybe it's not big, dramatic sins, but small compromises like gossiping or cutting corners. Psalm 5 invites us to come clean, knowing God's mercy is waiting. Try this. Take a quiet moment today to ask God to show you any areas where you've veered off track. Then trust his forgiveness to set you free. David's words also point to hope. Because God opposes wickedness, we can trust him to deal with evil in his perfect way. You don't have to take revenge or lose sleep over someone who's hurt you. Instead, you can pray, God, I trust you to handle this. Maybe it's a situation at school where bullies seem untouchable, or a workplace where unfairness reigns. Whatever it is, Psalm 5 assures us that God's justice will prevail, even if it takes time. For your spiritual growth, lean into this truth. God's hatred of wickedness is part of his love for you. It means he's committed to protecting you from evil's grip and guiding you toward a life of freedom. So when the world feels unfair, remember David's confidence in God's character. Let it fuel your prayers and steady your heart, knowing that the God who hates sin is also the God who fights for you, offering divine protection every step of the way. Now David gets personal again, turning his focus to worship in Psalm 5, verse 7 to 8. But as for me, I will come into your house in the multitude of your mercy, he says, his words brimming with gratitude and resolve. This is a man who knows he doesn't deserve God's kindness, but is overwhelmed by it anyway. For anyone craving God's presence or searching for how to pray, these verses are a roadmap to drawing near to God with humility and trust. David's talking about entering God's house, likely the tabernacle, a sacred place where God's presence dwelt. But this isn't just about a building. It's about approaching God with awe. Picture yourself walking into a quiet sanctuary, the weight of the world falling away as you focus on God's goodness. That's the vibe David's going for. He's not barging in with demands. He's bowing low, overwhelmed by God's mercy. This is a powerful reminder that we don't earn God's love. It's a gift, freely given. What does this look like today? You don't need a temple to seek God's presence. Your house might be your bedroom, a park bench, or even your car during a lunch break. Wherever you are, you can pause and pray, God, thank you for your mercy. I'm here to worship you. Try it next time you're stressed. Take a deep breath, thank God for his kindness, and feel the peace that comes from knowing he welcomes you. David's next request is a prayer for guidance. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before my face. He's not asking for a vague blessing. He's begging for a clear path. Why? Because his enemies are real, and their schemes make life messy. Maybe you relate. Perhaps you're navigating a toxic workplace, a family conflict, or even internal doubts that feel like enemies. David's prayer teaches us to lean on God for direction when the road ahead feels foggy. Think about a time you felt lost, maybe choosing a career path or deciding how to handle a strained relationship. It's tempting to rely on Google or gut instinct, but David goes straight to God. Make your way straight, he prays, like a hiker asking for a clear trail through a tangled forest. This is a prayer we can borrow daily. God, show me the next step. Keep me on your path. It's not about seeing the whole journey, just enough light for today. This section also highlights the power of righteousness. David doesn't want to wander into sin or retaliation, even with enemies circling. Instead, he asks God to keep him upright. For us, this means choosing integrity over shortcuts. Maybe it's being honest when it's easier to lie, or forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. These choices align us with God's heart, bringing inner peace and strength. Here's a practical tip. Write down David's prayer, lead me in your righteousness, and stick it somewhere you'll see it, like your mirror or desk. Let it remind you to seek God's guidance, especially when life feels overwhelming. You could also set a daily alarm to pause and pray, reconnecting with God's presence wherever you are. Ultimately, Psalm 5:7-8 is about trust. David knows he can't outsmart his enemies or force his way through life's challenges. But he also knows God's mercy is bigger than his problems. That's the hope we cling to. Whether you're facing a big decision, a broken heart, or just the grind of daily life, God invites you into his presence. He's ready to guide you step by step with a love that never fails. So, come as you are and let his mercy lead you home. David doesn't hold back in Psalm 5:9-10, describing his enemies with stark honesty. Their throat is an open tomb, they flatter with their tongue. It's a grim image, but it captures the danger of deceitful people, those whose words seem sweet, but hide destruction. For anyone searching for God's justice or struggling with betrayal, these verses offer a raw, real perspective on trusting God to handle those who do wrong. Let's break it down. David's not just venting, he's exposing the heart of wickedness. An open tomb suggests death and decay, meaning the words of the wicked lead to harm. Think of someone who manipulates with charm, like a coworker who compliments you to your face but undermines you behind your back. Or maybe it's bigger gossip that ruins reputations or lies that break families. David's saying these aren't just annoyances, they're deadly serious, and God sees it all. When David prays, "Declare them guilty, O God," he's not being vindictive, he's handing the situation to God. This is key. When you're hurt, it's tempting to lash out or plot revenge. Maybe someone cheated you and you're itching to get even. Psalm 5 shows a better way. Give it to God. He's the ultimate judge, and his justice is perfect, unlike our impulsive reactions. This brings peace of mind, knowing that you don't have to carry the burden of making things right. David asks God to let the wicked fall by their own counsels. Ever notice how lies often unravel on their own? Like a schemer who gets caught in their own web, maybe a politician exposed for corruption, or a friend whose gossip backfires. David trusts God to let evil collapse under its own weight. This doesn't mean we sit back and gloat, it means we rest, knowing God's got it under control. For your own life, these verses are a call to let go. If someone's wronged you, say, a betrayal that still stings, try praying David's prayer. God, I trust you to deal with this. It's not passive, it's powerful. It frees you from bitterness and keeps your heart soft. Maybe journal about the situation, then release it to God, asking Him to heal your hurt and handle the rest. This section also challenges us to check our own words. Are we ever the ones with flattering tongues? Maybe it's not outright lies, but half-truths to avoid conflict or impress someone. Psalm 5 pushes us toward honesty, knowing God values truth. Try this. For one day, commit to speaking only what's true and kind. Notice how it shifts your interactions and brings spiritual growth. David's prayer might feel harsh, but it's rooted in trust. He knows God's justice isn't cruel, it's fair. When he asks for the wicked to be cast out, he's longing for a world where evil doesn't win. We feel that too, don't we? When we see injustice, poverty, corruption, or cruelty, it stirs a cry for God to make things right. Psalm 5 gives us permission to pray boldly, asking God to act, while trusting His timing. Ultimately, these verses point to hope. Evil doesn't get the last word. Whether it's a personal betrayal or a global wrong, God is moving, working things out for good. So, when you're tempted to despair, remember David's confidence. Let it fuel your prayers and steady your heart, knowing the God who sees every lie is also the God who fights for truth, offering divine protection to those who trust Him. Psalm 5 ends on a high note, with David celebrating God's goodness. Let all those rejoice who put their trust in you. After wrestling with enemies and praying for justice, he lands in a place of joy and assurance. For anyone seeking God's protection or inner peace, these verses are like a warm embrace, reminding us that God surrounds His people with favor like a shield. David's call to rejoice isn't fake cheer, it's rooted in trust. He says those who take refuge in God can sing for joy. Picture a kid running to their parent during a storm, safe in their arms. That's the vibe here. No matter what's raging, stress, fear, or opposition, God is your safe place. Maybe you're facing a health scare or financial strain. David's words invite you to pause and say, God, I trust you. And let joy bubble up, even in the hard moments. What does it mean to take refuge in God? It's not about hiding from life, but leaning into His strength. Think of a time you felt overwhelmed. Maybe a deadline crushed you or a relationship fell apart. Instead of spiraling, imagine turning to God, praying, "You're my shelter." This shift brings peace of mind, not because the problem vanishes, but because you're not alone. Try it today. When worry hits, whisper a prayer and picture God's arms around you. David adds that God blesses the righteous and surrounds them with favor. This isn't a promise of a problem-free life. David had plenty of struggles, but a guarantee of God's presence. Favor doesn't always mean wealth or success. Sometimes it's the strength to forgive, the courage to keep going, or the friend who shows up at just the right time. Reflect on your own life. Where have you seen God's favor? Maybe it was a door that opened unexpectedly or a moment of clarity in prayer. The shield imagery is powerful. In David's day, a shield wasn't just defense, it was survival. God's favor is like that, protecting you from attacks you can't even see. Maybe it's shielding your heart from bitterness or guiding you away from a bad decision. For example, think of a time you narrowly avoided trouble. Maybe a gut feeling kept you safe. That's God's favor at work, wrapping you in divine protection. Practically, these verses call us to live righteously. This doesn't mean perfection, but a heart turned toward God. Small choices like being kind when it's hard or staying honest under pressure align you with His blessing. Try this. Pick one way to live out righteousness today. like encouraging someone who's down. Notice how it shifts your perspective and deepens your spiritual growth. David's joy also points to community. He prays for all who trust God to rejoice, not just himself. This reminds us to cheer each other on. Maybe share Psalm 5 with a friend who's struggling, or pray together for God's favor. Building each other up strengthens our faith and spreads joy. Ultimately, Psalm 5:11-12 is a promise. God's got you. His favor isn't earned, it's a gift for those who trust him. So when life feels heavy, remember David's song of joy. Let it lift your spirit, fuel your prayers, and remind you that God surrounds you with love, protection, and hope that never fades. Psalm 5 offers profound insights into the nature of God and the believer's relationship with him. Through David's prayer, we are reminded of the importance of seeking God's presence, living righteously, and trusting in his justice and favor. This psalm continues to inspire and comfort believers, serving as a timeless guide for daily living. After watching, remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and comment on the video. I have many good videos to share. Learn to give, and God will give peace to you and your family.